Previously in this series of Hashimoto's disease and omega-3 fatty acids, you discovered 1. What Hashimoto's disease is and what the key factors to deal with are. 2. What the symptoms of Hashimoto's disease are, and 3. Best ways to treat Hashimoto's disease naturally. This second video will share with you 4. What essential fatty acids are, why they're important and how to obtain them, and 5. Why you have to be very careful when considering omega-3 fish oil to help Hashimoto's disease. Before then, if you'd like to get an ongoing collection of news, reports, resources and courses on various other health and wellness issues, please click the subscribe button in the bottom right of the video screen, then click the grey bell icon so you don't miss out on future videos, and then please leave a comment or ask a question below this video. It's so very easy to do. Plus, watch this video to the very end, where you'll gain access to a special report that you can download as a free PDF. So, let's now find out what these last 2 of 5 key tips to be aware of are for you to understand the relationship between Hashimoto's disease and omega-3 fatty acids. Number 4. Essential fatty acids. What are they, why they're important, and how to obtain them? Of all the foods to eat to combat Hashimoto's disease, and any disease, illness and ailment for that matter, the omega-3 fatty acids obtained from edible seaweed and cold water oily fish are critical for reducing the levels of chronic inflammation in your body that triggers autoimmune diseases such as Hashimoto's disease. Here's why omega-3 fatty acids from these food sources are so important. 1. They are building blocks of your cellular health, along with omega-6 fatty acids, and are called essential fatty acids because you can only obtain them from what you eat, that is, fish and seaweed. Carefully note, omega-3 fatty acids are also obtained from walnuts and seeds. However, they are nowhere near as sufficient as the marine-based omega-3 fatty acids. 2. Omega-6 fatty acids are inflammatory, whilst omega-3 fatty acids are anti-inflammatory. 3. The problem most people have, and we're talking about 95% of the world's population, is that they have an imbalance of too many omega-6 fatty acids, which is obtained from various vegetable oils. 4. It's also important to recognise that inflammation helps protect your body when you injure or cut yourself, or if you contract a virus, when your immune system is in balance. This is acute inflammation. However, when it gets out of balance, as happens with autoimmune conditions like Hashimoto's disease, it becomes chronic inflammation, and then you have a real underlying problem to deal with. 5. Because of your lifestyle, it's very likely you eat a lot of fast food, microwaved food, convenient food, restaurant food, packaged food, and anything that comes in a tin or packaging. In other words, processed and ultra-processed foods. 6. Such processed foods are devoid of natural vitamins and nutrients, and instead full of flavourings, colourings and other ingredients that are nothing more than addictive sugars. 7. So, because your body is not getting the natural balance of foods it should be getting, it creates a breeding ground for chronic inflammation to build up and get out of hand. The anti-inflammatory omega-3 fatty acids are outnumbered and insufficient to combat the inflammatory omega-6 fatty acids, and so get overrun. 8. As your cells become full of the inflammatory omega-6 fatty acids, allowing chronic inflammation to thrive and build up, damaging the cells, it triggers the immune system to release antibodies that attack the thyroid gland, which then diminishes the thyroid's ability to make hormones, resulting in the thyroid hormone levels to fall. So, to stop that trigger reaction, the body needs to reduce the level of chronic inflammation by increasing its anti-inflammatory omega-3 fatty acid intake and significantly reduce its omega-6 fatty acid intake. 9. Like everything else, to have your body functioning efficiently, your omega-6 to omega-3 fatty acid ratio should be at a level, according to the World Health Organization, of 4:1 or less. The best fish to obtain your omega-3 fatty acids from are mackerel, herring, sardines, anchovies and wild salmon. And if you are a vegan or vegetarian, some of the best edible seaweed to consume include kelp, nori and spirulina. However, if you are already on medication, talk with your doctor about eating edible seaweed, for example, as one mineral the thyroid uses to create thyroid hormones is iodine, which is found in seaweed, and this might conflict with trying to reduce the levels of iodine being created. That's not good news for vegans and vegetarians. However, a patented omega-3 fatty acid supplement from marine algae that does not contain iodine could be a better alternative. Number 5. Be very careful when considering omega-3 fish oil to help your Hashimoto's disease. One main source of frustration when treating Hashimoto's disease is the lack of progress with suppressing the symptoms. There are 3 main reasons why your frustration arises. 1. Any drugs you are prescribed likely don't work, plus you may well suffer with side effects. 2. You are not advised of the steps to take yourself regarding changing to a healthy diet of fruit and vegetables and cutting out crap food. And 3. Any fish oil type of supplements such as fish oil or krill oil or cod liver oil or anything similar don't work as well as you are led to believe. Items 1 and 2 above are self-explanatory. However, item 3 requires a bit more explanation. You see, previously we spoke about the foods of marine algae such as edible seaweed and oily fish such as wild salmon, herring, sardines and anchovies as ideal sources of omega-3 fatty acids. Those omega-3 fatty acids are naturally combined with polyphenols, which are antioxidants and phytonutrients in their own right, and so they also act to protect the natural omega-3 fatty acids. The problem with the fish oil supplements, which contain omega-3 fatty acids, often referred to as DHA docosahexaenoic acid and EPA eicosapentaenoic acid, is that they don't contain the natural polyphenols that protect the omega-3 fatty acids. You see, the way polyphenols protect the omega-3 fatty acids is by stopping the omega-3 fatty acids from oxidizing, that is, from going off and losing their potency. If you already take fish oil type supplements, you probably experience fish burp, or the product emits a fishy smell. In both cases, that is, the fish oil oxidizing is what happens as soon as the fish oil is exposed to fresh air or to the heat of your body. So, here are the key points to note if you already take such a supplement or are considering such a supplement as recommended by your doctor or a well-meaning friend. 1. Fish oil is not the same as oily fish, such as wild salmon, sardines, anchovies, mackerel and herring, for example. 2. Fish oil products described as high-grade omega-3 fish oil or as something similar with no natural polyphenols shown in the ingredients are nothing more than a marketing trick, and the product will oxidize as mentioned above. 3. Fish oil showing ingredients that show antioxidants such as vitamin E or natural herbs are also to be avoided, because whilst vitamin E and herbs have their own benefits and uses, they do not replace the natural polyphenols. The vitamin E merely acts as a shelf-life preservative, and the herbs act to suppress the fishy smell or taste as the fish oil type product oxidizes. 4. It takes between 24 to 48 hours for the combined omega-3 fatty acids and polyphenols to make their way through your body, your stomach and your blood systems to reach your cell membranes and cells, whereas the fish oil type supplements you see sold in shops and online oxidize, that is, go off and lose their potency and effectiveness after about 4 to 16 hours. In other words, they do not do the job that you are being led to believe they will do. They do not do what it says on the packaging. What you want to look for is a supplement product that replaces the natural antioxidant polyphenols that are removed when the fish oil is first processed. The processing procedure removes all the toxins and heavy metals like mercury, which is exactly what you want to happen, but the same process also removes the natural polyphenols, which are not then replaced by most companies with another natural polyphenol. And when you do get the right omega-3 fatty acids with polyphenols in your body, whether that is via the food you eat or the high quality supplements, you won't the typical symptoms associated with Hashimoto's disease, such as depression and brain fog, aching and painful muscles and joints, skin and hair issues, to name a few, to improve. Summing up then, this video about Hashimoto's disease and omega-3 fatty acids, 5 key tips, has shown you 1. What Hashimoto's disease is and what the key factors to deal with are. 2. What the symptoms of Hashimoto's disease are. 3. What the best way to treat Hashimoto's disease naturally is. 4. What essential fatty acids are, why they're important and how to obtain them. And 5. Why you have to be very careful when considering omega-3 fish oil to help Hashimoto's disease. This video takes you back to the root cause of Hashimoto's disease, namely the lifestyle, especially current diet and eating habits that are likely to include significant amounts of processed and ultra-processed foods. These create the inflammatory omega-6 fatty acids imbalance in your body, which leads to the creation of chronic inflammation that is responsible for damaging your cellular health and making your immune system work inefficiently. So it makes sense then to take a simple blood test to measure your omega-6 to omega-3 fatty acid ratio to see if your cellular health is in or out of balance. Your doctor will have already taken blood from you to test that you're ill or you've got a disease, not just Hashimoto's disease. So why wouldn't they test your blood to measure your cellular health to see how healthy or unhealthy you are? The reason is because the medical profession deal with the symptoms and not the root cause. In other words, it's the sticky plaster approach to dealing with your problem. And depending on the results of that omega-6 to omega-3 fatty acid ratio test, you can then determine how you should be dealing with your Hashimoto's disease. If you're paying medical insurance or fees for professionals to help keep you and your family healthy, are you sure you're getting value for money? It's something for you to seriously consider. This video is not to be construed as medical advice in any way. It's a systematic approach to looking at an autoimmune condition by going back to the root cause of the health problem, in this case Hashimoto's disease, and understanding how and why symptoms have arisen and are persisting. It will also help shed light on why any medication, why any fish oil type supplements you are taking are not working. And if you are unfortunate enough to have side effects from any medication you are taking, thereby creating further health problems for you, then that in itself should be waving a big red flag for you to realise such medication is not working and or is harmful. To emphasise the importance of understanding why omega-3 fatty acids, polyphenols and antioxidants are so crucial in getting your chronic inflammation under control, it all starts by finding out if your current omega-6 to omega-3 fatty acid ratio is out of balance. One way of doing that is to click on the URL link in the description box below this video, complete the short questionnaire and then hit the start button. Plus, here is your special report to download for free, entitled 5 Vital Factors to Understand When Using Omega-3 Fatty Acids to Combat Hashimoto's Disease and Thyroidism. Click on the URL link in the description box below. Finally, here's the disclaimer you've been waiting for. And now, here's the boring but very essential bit. Kindly note, the content of this video is not to be construed as medical advice in any shape or form and has been created for passive informational purposes only. End of boring but very essential bit. Hope you found this video helpful, in which case please hit the like button, subscribe to the Omega-3 Zone YouTube channel and feel free to share with others you think will find this content helpful. In the meantime, and until the next video is released, bye for now.